Hello everyone, thank you for coming or for coming back. Today I'm going to show you how to make super simple donuts. Now these are not yeasted donuts or cake donuts, these are honey crullers or crullers, and they are super simple because they require no rise time. It is just a fried choux pastry. So all the ingredients and the measurements are listed down below and we can start baking. Now I did do another video talking about how to make choux pastry in which I made eclairs, and you can also go watch that, but I'm just going to go sort of quickly through the making process. So we are going to start with a pot, and into it we are going to add our water and our butter as well as a pinch of salt. We are going to heat this up over a medium to low heat. Ideally, we want our butter to melt without our water coming to a simmer so that our water doesn't all evaporate away because it will mess with our recipe proportions. So after your butter has all melted, you're going to add your flour all at once and start stirring. We are going to cook this still on the heat until it forms a ball that sort of pulls away from the side of the pot, and it should leave a thin sort of film on the bottom of the pot. After it is all nicely cooked and you have your film and your ball, you're going to add your dough to the bowl of a stand mixer. You can also do this with a hand mixer, it's just the same. And we're going to beat this on high speed to cool down our dough. So we want to cool this down because we are going to be adding eggs, and we don't want our eggs to cook when we add it to our dough. So you're just going to keep beating until there's not as much steam coming out of your bowl, and when you feel the bottom of the bowl, it isn't hot anymore when you touch it. Now, once the bowl is cool to the touch, we can start adding our eggs. We're going to add these one at a time, letting the previous one get fully incorporated before adding our next egg. And once we get to the last of our eggs, we're going to make sure that we scrape down the bowl before letting our dough mix for another 30 seconds to a minute. And at this point, it should be nice and smooth. Now, after you've added your last egg, what you want to see with the choux paste is that when you pull your paddle or your beaters out of the bowl, your dough should trail off and fall in a sort of V shape. So if this doesn't happen, then normally you would add another egg to get it looser. I say normally because if you are frying these donuts, I am going to suggest that you not make it any looser, just because I don't think it really affects it that much. If you were making eclairs or choux pastry, then I would say add more egg, but with the donuts, I think if it's at 4, then just stay with the consistency that you have. So now that our dough is all mixed, we are going to go ahead and transfer this to a piping bag to pipe our donuts. I am using a French tip, but you can use a star tip or a round tip. It's just going to change the way your donuts look a little bit. So go ahead and pop that in your piping bag and add all of your choux pastry mixture, and then we can get ready to pipe our donuts. Now that we are ready to pipe, there is 2 ways that you can go. So the first way is that you can pipe all of your donuts out onto a piece of parchment, and then you can freeze them. This means that when they are nice and frozen, you can just peel them off the parchment and put them right into the fryer. I have heard this used for eclairs before, and I've been told that it helps them sort of come to temperature at a more consistent rate so they get nicer air inside of them. I have never done this for eclairs or for donuts, but I did pop one of mine in the freezer to see what would happen, and I will probably show you a video comparison here. So obviously I do not know what these look like, but that is the difference. There is the not frozen dough and there is the frozen dough. Whoa, crazy! Look at how similar or different they are. Anyways, the second way that you can do this is the faster way, and it is the way that I am choosing. And so for this, we are going to fry our donuts immediately, and so we are going to have to cut our parchment up into squares before we pipe out our donuts. So this totally depends on the size that you want. Do keep in mind these will puff up a little bit in the fryer. So I went for about a 3 to 4 inch circle, and I cut my parchment paper into squares so that I could pipe my donuts. Now to pipe one of these, all you're going to do is keep your piping bag at a 90-degree angle, so straight up and down. You're going to start and you're going to pipe a nice big circle, making sure to trail off at the end and just join up your donut. You will probably have to hold down the parchment here because we can't stick it to a tray because they are not going to be baking on the tray. So I piped a few of these indoors, but I'm going to save the rest and pipe them as they are ready to fry. So to fry, you are going to need a pot of oil or a deep fryer. Now your fryer or your oil should be heated to 365 degrees Fahrenheit before you start frying your donuts. So to fry these, all you're going to do is take your donut parchment paper and all and plop it right into the fryer. After about 10 seconds, you should be able to take the parchment out of the fryer just with a pair of tongs or chopsticks or anything like that. Now, a quick note, while you are frying these donuts, I would suggest that you put them in upside down. This is because as they rise, the air will obviously go up, so you want to have your nice pretty piping facing down because otherwise the air will flow up and it will burst all your piping out. But if you had the side that was flat because it was sitting on the tray or the table, then it will burst and it won't matter because it wasn't as pretty as the other side, if that makes sense. So we're just going to go ahead and fry these until they are a very light golden brown. One thing that I think is important to keep in mind when you are frying these donuts is that if there is not bubbles coming out, then there is likely oil going in. These donuts are really super light, so they will soak up the oil like a sponge, so make sure that when the bubbles calm down, you check on your donuts. Once these are all fried on both sides, you can go ahead and take them out and let them drip dry on a wire rack while you pipe and fry the rest of your donuts. Now at some point you will run out of batter and you will find yourself with about 12 donuts. At this point we are all ready to glaze them. So for the glaze we are just going to combine our honey, our powdered sugar, and give that a stir, adding just enough warm water that you can stir it without much difficulty. Now I know that this glaze seems super duper sweet, but keep in mind there was no sugar in the donut batter, so we are safe to go with a sweet glaze. You don't have to worry about it being crazy sweet or anything like that. Now to glaze we have two options, and I'm going to tell you both and give you some pros and cons of both. So the first option is to just take your donut and go ahead and dip in the top and then flip it back over, letting a little bit of it drip off before you put it on the tray to set up. Now, the pros of this is that it will use less glaze, it will be less difficult to do and less sticky. The cons is that you'll have less icing and it maybe won't taste quite as good. Now, the second option is to take your donut, plop it in your icing, and then give it a flip over with a fork before getting the second side and then pulling it out, letting some of the excess drip off, and then putting it on the tray to set up. Now the cons of this is that it will use more icing, it will be messier, and as you leave it to drip, a lot of the icing will just end up on the tray. The pros of this one is that it tastes better. So it is up to you what you want to do with your donuts. If you want them a little less sweet, then go for just dipping, but if you want them to be nice and sweet and glazed all the way around, then make sure you give them a quick flip in the glaze before you take them out and let them set. Now the glaze won't completely set, it will still be a little bit sticky, but it should get a little bit easier to hold onto than it was before, and at this point your donuts are ready to be eaten. These donuts are so tasty, they are so light and so full of air, so be careful because it is really easy to eat 5 of them all by yourself. But these are super tasty and they are super quick donuts. If you don't go the route of freezing your batter, then these can be ready in like half an hour. I really think it took me half an hour to make all of these donuts. So I hope you make these, I hope you enjoy, and I will see you next time.